Hi, this is Maurice Benard and Anna Damergis. Welcome to the Maurice and Anna Show.
And we're back with the Maurice and Anna Show. How you doing, Maurice?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you, Anna. Just getting ready to,
I like when you do the intro better.
No, but you do a good intro.
But you do a better one.
Yeah, well, you just did it, so.
So today we have a really special guest. I like to brag about her because she has become part of my family. She is a magnificent human being. She has been a true inspiration in my life, and she has become the godmother to my son, Andrew. And we met in a very interesting fashion. I may let her tell that story. But her name is Maria Baltazzi, or should I say Dr. Maria Baltazzi. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm so excited to be with both of you.
Well, I'm really
Me
excited.
especially.
Oh, yes.
You especially. Exactly.
I was saying earlier, I am in the company of two Emmy-winning people right here, and I'm a little jealous because I don't have an Emmy yet, but I think there may be one in my future since I'm sitting amongst the winners.
You're attracting the energy.
I am. I'm attracting the energy. Maurice has 3 Emmys. He's nominated for a 4th Emmy. And Maria has been nominated multiple times, I believe.
Yeah,
And does have 1 Emmy, right?
Yep.
Okay.
You're right. You got it.
But more importantly, Maria has a book that she wrote that was just published. It is called Take a Shot at Happiness.
I like that title.
I like the title too. And I think it is a must read, and everybody should go to Amazon and go get their copy. And you can find her at Maria Baltazzi for more information. But if you could, Maria, please tell us what inspired you to write this book and how you're feeling right now about having the hard copy in your hands.
Well,
But that's not a hard copy. That's
well, it's a soft
copy.
Yeah, the
But the
physical.
idea,
Yeah, the
right.
physical book. It's actually quite overwhelming.
Sorry. He likes to break my chops.
I know, but you like to break his.
I do.
What did you say earlier?
It goes two
But
ways.
you said something earlier that was really great, a saying.
Oh, Anna?
Yeah.
Anna is either the best thing that ever happened to you or your worst nightmare.
How could I be anybody's nightmare? That is like so impossible.
It made me laugh more the second time she said it. That was amazing.
She doesn't mean that. She doesn't mean that.
Well, that's, it's still good.
So tell us about Take a Shot at Happiness.
Well, Take a Shot at Happiness. It's a creative approach to being happier. And it revolves around 3 things. It revolves around journaling and doing written journaling, reflective exercises that are throughout the book. And it's also photography. And also community. So I'm creating a community of readers. So when you are going through the book, you have accountability. Being in community makes it more fun. And it also helps you not feel like you're alone. And what I did when I wrote the book is well, first of all, I started my own happiness journey when I was pretty broken myself. Nothing in my life was working. My professional life wasn't working. My personal life wasn't working. And I just remember sitting in my office just feeling at my lowest low and thinking, this is not going to break me. It's not going to define me. And that's what set me on my journey. So
When you say this, what is this? Like, did you feel, were you depressed? Were you down because something happened? Or?
Yes, I was, I felt lost. I felt that I had tried so hard to succeed in my career, and I wasn't getting the shows that I wanted, and they were going to other producers that I didn't always think were as good as myself.
Right.
Yeah, so your ego is kicking
Yeah.
is kicking in. You're watching other people get the shows that you want to do, and
Yeah.
that's tough. You
Yeah.
know? And when you identify so much with your work and suddenly it's not there, you feel cast adrift. And then I was in a relationship that wasn't quite working out. So the combination of a relationship not working out
And career.
and career not working out,
Yeah.
it just brought me to the my lowest of lows.
So when you're in that lowest of lows, then you said, what makes you say, I want to write a book? Is that when you wanted to write the book?
No,
Oh.
it was into that. That was the catalyst to
I get
send
you.
me
I
on
get
my
you.
journey.
Oh, all right.
And a book turns into a course, turns into certifications, turns into degrees.
Right.
So it was in that journey when I was seeing the results that I was getting in my life. I really turned my life around, and so I would say maybe 5 years into my journey, I sat down and I qualified what was now working in my life. And I came up with a list, which now is the foundation of my book. I call them the happiness essentials. And so what I did is, based on what was working in my life and what I was already studying, I went out and started to look for research to back up what I thought was a happiness essential. So my book also includes science. So yes, there's meditations and affirmations and things like that. However, I wanted to write a book that spoke to both the spiritual people and the non-spiritual people, because at the end of the day, we all want happiness.
Yeah.
It's a universal. So I wanted to create, actually, I wrote the book that I wish I would have had early in my journey. Yeah. Yes. And coming from a creative background, I wanted my path to happiness to be through creativity, which is why there's journaling. And when you write, journaling and photography, those are the two anchors. But when you write, you take that blob of thought that's in your head, and you are able to process it in a way that begins to organize and clarify the things that you are going through. It gives you an emotional catharsis. And then photography, when you think about what's going on in your head, it's images.
Yeah.
And so I give photography assignments after each point that I make, and that helps you become more aware of your thoughts. And when you become more aware of your thoughts, then you can actually do something about them. You can reframe them.
What's amazing is everybody says to journal. And I just, during the pandemic, I went through some horrific things. And I tried, and then I keep trying to, and I can't, I don't click with it. But everybody loves it and says, do it.
Well, let me qualify that, because I actually don't journal as in keeping a journal, a daily journal. I was cured of that after I lost 2 journals, one on a plane, and I don't know where the other one went to. I mean, your most private, deepest thoughts are now, somebody's going to come across them.
Yeah.
So I don't do a daily journal. Mm-hmm. So when I'm talking about journaling, so I'll write a point. So I'll write about trusting the process. And then afterwards, I'll ask a question that helps you reflect on how you trust the process, how that is for you. So journaling is specific to the lesson, the point that I'm making. And same with the photography assignments. So you'll get one photo assignment with one related written assignment. I call them photo ops and action opportunities. And that's so you are doing something very specific to understand a point like trusting the process.
So I have a question. Do you believe that happiness is a choice?
Who's that to?
Both of you.
Well, go ahead, Maurice.
Do I believe that happiness is a choice? Yeah. I think you can make happiness happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But you gotta, for me, you have to change your thought process and stay, in the moment. And happiness to me, I've said it, how many times now, but I've never felt joy until last 2 or 3 years. So I'm 60 years old, so it took me about 57 years to feel joy. That's pretty, and people would say to me, well, what about when your wife had a baby? I didn't feel it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But not the joy that I feel now, where when you have peace within, that's joy to me.
No.
You seem very carefree now.
Yeah, yes. And you didn't know me in the
No, I
dark
didn't.
days.
Yeah.
Thank God.
I'm glad.
Yeah, you
I'm
should.
glad I caught you at this point in time.
I mean, it wasn't like I was like, a bad guy or anything.
No.
It's just that I had a lot more rage and I never felt peace. So when somebody never feels peace, it's very difficult.
Well, that seems like an unrest within.
Yeah.
When you have no
Yeah,
peace.
it's a lot of chaos.
Yeah.
Right. So
That's
how
it.
do you describe happiness and whether it or not it's a choice?
It's 100% a choice. Unless it's a choice, unless you want to be happy, nothing happens. And so it's a choice backed up by intentional activities. So choice alone isn't enough.
Mm-hmm.
If you make a choice and then you don't do anything about it, then that's wishful thinking.
Right.
So it's actually doing something about it, which is where my book comes in. It helps you A, make that choice, and then B, do something specific about it. So my book helps the reader be guided through that process of understanding and becoming comfortable with making that choice and seeing how they can navigate that choice into something. You talk about positive thinking, and I like to think of it as really productive thinking or constructive thinking. I think that's the more accurate word. That's what you want to create for yourself. So yes, 100% choice.
So the book, Take a Shot at Happiness, says how to write, direct, and produce the life that you want. And I read inside that you wrote to the big G upstairs. I love that because I love that God is present in this book. And I want to know how you treat that in your life, how you treat God in your life, and how important God is to you in your life.
Everything. It's the beginning and the end and the middle. It's everything. Nothing happens without checking in with God.
Amen. So, where are you from? Tell us a little bit about your background for those who don't know, and a little bit about your history, and what else it is that you want us to know.
Yeah, like where'd you grow up and how many, brothers and sisters? I like to know that stuff.
You like to know. You like to get in.
To me, these interviews, they're like my first dates.
Uh-oh.
So, where you from?
You have 2 first dates.
This was old news. But, well,
Oh, that hurt.
well, we've been friends for so long, you know what I mean?
Joking.
But, I like
And
to.
I've known her longer.
I know, that's
Ah.
amazing. Sorry.
So I wasn't her nightmare yet. I have to know what that means a little bit more. I'm just a little
We'll get into it later.
confused. Okay.
So, yeah, like where'd you grow up?
I was born in Chicago.
Oh, Chicago.
I'm a Chicago girl, and then I moved to Cleveland. And out of high school, I came out to California for college, and I just never left. I just stayed here. After college, I got into television.
What college?
I went to San Diego State. And
Oh, you did?
I did.
My daughter
I
went
did.
there for a bit.
Yeah. And then eventually I got a master's degree at Art Center. Yeah.
Oh, a master's. I love
masters.
Because smart people are.
Hey, why not? You
I
gotta
barely
brag.
graduated from high school, man.
You know what? There's
I know it doesn't matter and
Yeah,
all that
you know,
kind of stuff.
yeah.
But I got to be honest. When people get masters, my daughter's going to get a master. It's like I look up to those people.
Yeah.
Well, it's a lot of effort, and then I went on to get a PhD in conscious living, and it is a lot of effort, but it's effort that, well, I'm speaking for me. I pursued things that were really meaningful to me. It was never ever about making money. So I went to film school because I have such a great love of story. Still do, always will. That's what my book is filled with. They're stories, and I use a lot of film references to bring home the point. I do a whole thing around Indiana Jones and Indy taking that leap of faith in the Crusades film. So, story is huge for me. And then studying conscious living, I began my journey out of self-defense. I did not want to be taken down by the circumstance of my existence. I wasn't happy in my personal life or professional life, and I wanted to do something about it. And I was finding, especially in the television industry, that other people's stuff were becoming my stuff, and it just was not healthy or sustainable. So that began my journey, and now eventually to this book.
Dang.
Yeah. And then we know this one, Anna.
Yeah,
So more than just being the godmother. Well, we're both Greek Orthodox, so we have a Greek background. Even though I have an Italian last name, that's a whole nother story. And Anna, and I'm the Nuna of her son. That's what I was going to say. I'm
That
the
means
Nuna,
godmother in Greek.
right? So I'm the Nuna. But in addition to that, how we first met is I was doing a television pilot for CBS.
Wow.
Oh, my.
Wow.
I didn't know Anna had it in her.
And she was cast to be well,
was she
a detective of sorts. She was cast to be
Detective.
Yeah.
Yes.
What was the name of the detective?
Well, she played herself. But one of the things, she had to do these crazy things. We had stunts that they had to do. I
did stunts. Could you imagine?
I put this one into a harness in the middle of the Long Beach Harbor.
right.
Where she was
I would never done
she
that.
was airlifted off of the platform and just swung through the air. And the first thing she said to me when I was interviewing is, "I don't like to sweat." And I thought, "Oh, this is going to be good."
You were in the air?
Yes.
Over the water?
Yes.
No.
In a
Yeah, like in one
harness
of those
carried.
hanging basket
Yes.
things.
Yes.
Why?
That was one of the
That was one of
drills.
And that
right?
didn't scare the hell out of you?
I think the adrenaline was just so powerful that it overtook me. I was like, screw it. I'm going to go up. Let's do it. I got to get the gold.
Wow, that's scary, man.
I had her scaling the side of the Egyptian theater.
That's right.
Yeah,
Right.
she
Helicopters, motorcycles.
chases.
Were you into
Car
doing stunts like
chases.
that?
I didn't know what I was into. I just got thrown into the mix and then I had to go for it. I didn't want to lose.
That's amazing.
When you're
That-
thrown into it, you just
No,
go.
I understand, but boy, that's scary to me. I hate stunts anyway. I just like to act.
If I had to, well, yeah, you act all the time.
I know. Life and career.
So that's, how we met. That
That's-
was
Then what? But then you guys
a long time
met,
ago.
and then you
Well,
kept in touch, or Anna kept bugging you or something. Like
She did.
probably.
Yeah.
She did.
I
She
figured.
kept showing up in the
I know.
edit room, wanting to see how things were coming along. She would send me chocolates and little things
Right.
like coffee because she knew I liked those things. No, she stayed close. And then once we figured out that we were both Greek,
Right.
and Greek Orthodox, so we shared an ethnicity and same religious
Went
background.
to church
Yeah.
together.
Oh,
and then-
wow.
When she became pregnant with her son, I said, "Do you want a Nuna?"
I never experienced anybody saying that before. I thought it was the coolest thing ever because she was like, if you're going to have a baby, I want to be the godmother.
That's cool.
I said, wow, I like that. That's somebody who's serious about the job. Because it is a big responsibility to be the godmother of a
I'll tell a
child.
story about God thing.
What, like what?
A God thing?
Like what? Tell me.
I'll tell it quick,
Okay.
but it was traumatic for me.
Oh.
I was asked, a buddy of mine, when I got into acting, he wasn't very positive, and he, I don't know, whatever. So about 10 years later, I went to the reunion, and he was there, and we hung out again.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Do you want to be my son's godfather?" And I said, "Yeah," because it's hard to say no. But I knew I should have said no. Years later,
Mm-hmm.
I had to call him and say, "I can't do it."
Mm.
Woo!
Wow, that's a big deal.
Because I knew that if I did it, this guy's not the greatest guy. And I would have to be the god for life. So I called him, and it wasn't pretty. His wife got on the phone,
Wow.
"You Hollywood piece of shit." It was ugly.
were
But I said no.
upset.
They were crying. He was crying. But in a weird way. And I said, "Look, man, you were mean to me or whatever." But I knew that I couldn't do it.
Right. It's a big
It's a
responsibility.
big responsibility, and she's great. So
Amazing.
that lucks out, right?
Amazing, yeah.
But what if she wasn't?
Right.
And you only did it because, right? Then
Right.
you have to.
Well, and that's great because you drew a very clear boundary. You
Yeah.
understood. You had the awareness
Yes, I
about
did.
yourself.
Yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
the family, and you made a very
Just
clear.
couldn't.
That's great.
Yeah, it was.
More people need to do that. Draw boundaries. That's also one of the things I talk about in my book.
It's okay to say no.
It is.
I know, but it's tough.
It's very tough.
But if you don't, you pay for it for life. In this situation.
Yeah, you have to be really smart about what
Yeah.
you say yes to.
Well, and that's where clarifying. Going back to my book.
Yes.
No, I do that
That's
all the
where-
time.
A shot at happiness. Yes.
Well, but when you clarify what are your sets of values, what do you care about most in life, then that makes those yeses and nos really super clear.
I get you. I
Because you
understand
understand your boundary and
understand
you
that.
will go out and protect them.
Yep, I like
And that's
that.
what my happiness essentials are about.
I like that.
It's understanding those boundaries and protecting them.
I think as we become older and more mature and evolved, I think
Some.
right. I think that we learn to understand ourselves, which is so important because if we have a true understanding of who we are, then that makes life so much easier with the relationships that you now draw in,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And for me, who knew that day that I went to this casting call that I would meet the godmother of my unborn child, and now she's become my family. And it just, as time goes on, reveals itself as to it was so meant to be.
Yes, it's amazing because your instinct was right. I could meet her and know right away she's a sweet person. I
Right.
just see it. And my instincts were right with my friend, that he wasn't a good guy. But you made the right choice. I initially made the wrong choice. But why? Because my instinct said no, but I was too scared or whatever.
Right.
That's what we need to fix, right?
I think
Right.
that's kind of an exercise that we constantly have to have with ourselves, right? Trusting our instincts.
I know.
Well, to trust your instincts, you need to be aware. So that's where you're starting is creating awareness. You know, because we just think so unconsciously, and when you practice to pay attention to your thoughts, it takes vigilance and it becomes more your habit. So you become quicker to respond to those negative thoughts and then do something about it to, stop it. You know,
Yeah.
There's actually a technique that I think came out of the University of Michigan that's called thought stopping. So when you start to have a thought that you don't
Yeah,
want to have, you either say stop it, you clap your hand, and
Exactly. I do it in my head.
Ooh, I'm going to use
If
that.
I have a thought coming in, I say no or stop. I say whatever just to not have that thought.
I
And I
love
can go on to the.
Yeah.
The problem is in the past when I was all different, I couldn't do it. Those thoughts just kept rolling, brother, and it was not going to be stopped. But then I've learned to do what you're saying, and it's helped me out tremendously.
Is there a people stopping mechanism that we can use?
yeah, it's called block.
Trying to,
Block them on your phone and social media.